Good evening. At this time, I would like to call the meeting of the Advisory Committee to order, it being 6:30 p.m. And we do have a quorum present. There is myself and Jacqueline McComber, and also online is Andrew Mosher. So we do have a quorum. The Templeton Advisory Committee regular business meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV Channel 8 and the TCTV YouTube channel. Responses will be made to comments in the TCTV YouTube channel as time permits. The agenda and meeting materials for this business meeting were posted to www.mytowngovernment.org/1468 no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws. The chair reserves the right to add items to, remove items from, or change the order of the agenda. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the committee and the public time to review the agenda items and to ensure the meeting runs within the allotted time frame. At this time, I'd like to have us rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to offer some brief additional opening remarks. I believe that we have a great committee. I want to first thank John Kaplis for serving as chair for the past 2 years. And also, I thank him for remaining on advisory. I also wish to thank Julie Richards for volunteering to serve on advisory. It is so hard to have a full committee, and I know that Julie will, as a former select board member, add a lot of experience and wisdom. I also recognize Jacqueline, who's to my left, as well as Andrew, for volunteering to serve. Jacqueline brings valuable perspective as a parent with children in the local schools. And Andrew brings a lot of business experience, most importantly, a knowledge of finances. I do think that we have a very strong committee, and I appreciate the fact that these people have volunteered to serve. I also want to welcome Kelsey, who is taking the minutes of the meeting. This is her first go at taking minutes. She recently came on board as an employee of the town of Templeton. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, are there any public comments?
Not yet, but Bob Sozik and John Kaplis have both joined the Zoom since we've started.
Yes, John would join as a member, and Bob Sosik, there's an item on the agenda concerning him. All right, at this time, we have several minutes to approve from prior meetings. And the first minutes to be approved would be the minutes of April 25th. And the members present or on Zoom could take a moment to review these minutes.
Mr. Chair, I just did have one concern that I thought we addressed at a prior meeting, which is there are several misspellings of my name in the minutes. Doesn't hurt my ego, just don't know if it matters or not.
I believe, Andrew, that they can be corrected before being finally released to the public.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, is it the spelling of both your first and your last name?
I think it's my last name.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll make sure that that is corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other changes or comments? Well, there being none, I would offer a motion to accept these minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And that would be moved, subject to changing the spelling of Mr. Mosier's last name. Don?
That's
Sorry.
correct.
Okay, all right. And your second will
Yeah.
also reflect that?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the April 25th, 2024 Advisory Committee meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Mr. Chair, you need to have a roll
Roll
call
call.
vote since we are doing a video call as well. It has to be a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplis. All right, at this time, I will conduct a roll call vote. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplis,
Yes.
Ms. McComber,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. So the vote in favor is 4-0 to accept the minutes. All right, and the next set of meetings is a pre-town meeting held on May 2nd. And I'll give each of you a moment to review the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplis,
Yes.
Ms. McComber?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. And the final set of minutes is from the joint meeting held with the Board of Selectmen on June 26th. And again, I'll give everybody a moment to review the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Mosier, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Kaplis?
Yes.
Ms. McComber?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So the minutes are approved by a unanimous vote. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 4A, discussion, potential recommendation of incorporation of written meeting minutes with the TCTV recording and use of artificial intelligence app to create verbatim transcripts of all town meetings. I just would like to make a comment on this. Do each of you have the text of a possible motion on this, as well as the other items on the agenda? Mr. Caplis, do you?
I do.
And Mr. Mosier, do you?
Yes.
All right, and you
Yep.
do as well?
Yep.
Okay, so we all do. I just would like to make a couple of comments concerning this. I placed this on, and I guess you could call me the moving party, so to speak. And
Mr. Chair,
yes,
can you send somebody to open the back door? You have another member that's locked out of the building.
oh, it must be Julie.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hello. This is just so that you know, yeah, we're on item 4A.
Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
This is concerning with incorporation by reference issue. I'm going to speak on it, and I think I'll make it clear to
Okay.
everybody. Well, I'd like to speak on this, and then as other people have comments, I'll entertain that. Back at our last joint meeting, there seemed to be a question as to whether or not the select board meeting minutes should have been accepted as they are. And it got me to thinking about this issue. And the basic problem is this, is that when we or any board within the town produce written meeting minutes, there's really four parties involved. There's the official on the town board, and then there are citizens, and then there is also the administrative town official who prepares the minutes. And finally, there's the State Ethics Committee and the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. So there's really 4 or 5 parties. And the problem is, when I presented this to the board, to the select board, I did receive comments from Mr. Bennett, and he's also followed up. And he makes a very good point, is that, and this is a very good point, is that there have to be, per the Massachusetts open meeting law, there have to be written minutes of the meeting. And it has to describe who's there and what was discussed, you know, the time and place of the meeting, who was there, what was discussed, and the recorded vote. There's also the other problem is that just having a transcript of the entire meeting and posting that is also not a suitable substitute for written minutes of a meeting per the Mass Open Meeting Law. So the problem is really this, is the area that you get into trouble is you can have minutes that it's subjective, where you can have minutes that you think as an official meets the summary requirements of the Mass Open Meeting Law. And yet a citizen may not believe that that meets the subjective requirements of the open meeting law, and it can generate a complaint. And then what can happen is that, an unpaid board like us, or, small town boards tend to be either, very not paid at all, or they're essentially volunteers. And in the past, I know when I had my law practice many years ago, the ethics committee, I don't think they do it to that extent, but they used to really pick on, volunteer boards in small towns. And I think that has changed. I think they are more fair than they used to be 30 or 40 years ago. But the problem is that we make subjective minutes, and every time we post minutes or approve minutes, there is the chance, there is the exposure to large fines. And that's really action by the attorney generals of the state ethics commission. So I came up with language, and I came up with a motion. The problem is that it's probably not adequate given the given the circumstances, the present circumstances of the state open meeting law, but that's the way it is. But the other consideration is this: is artificial intelligence has now really replaced the need for written minutes. If not now, then certainly within the next couple of years. And the open meeting law will have to be changed, but it's not changed yet. I think of our efforts to create a change, I think that they would fall on deaf ears. But that is really the reason why I created the language. Is I think that if we have minutes and then place language, which you may have noticed with the sets of minutes that you just approved, there's language at the bottom, that states that the minutes were incorporated by reference. And the exact language, those two things, it was incorporated by reference to the extent that the recordings are accurate. So that gets TCTV off the hook because they're concerned about whether or not the recordings are accurate. And there are times when it's not accurate. So it accounts for that. But anyway, these minutes incorporate by reference the recordings that may have been made of this meeting by Templeton Cable Television, TCTV, and YouTube. Additionally, these minutes, absent clear and convincing evidence to the contrary, intend to meet the requirements contained within the Massachusetts open meeting law. I gave careful consideration to this language. It is probably dead on arrival with the state ethics commission, but it does give volunteer boards like us a certain measure of protection or notice, and that's why I did that. If there is, but incorporating the recording by reference, if the recording is correct, then really you've incorporated the entire meeting verbatim. You've incorporated by reference. Incorporation by reference is a long-standing legal accepted term. It's long-standing. It's been in effect for decades, and so it would not be subject to challenge of this is a novel legal mumbo jumbo. It's not. It's well accepted. Additionally, the standard of clear and convincing evidence. What that means is, should a complaint go, be it a citizen complaint or somebody else complaining, is the general standard is preponderance of the evidence. In other words, the complainant is 51% right and the town official is 49% wrong. Clear and convincing evidence, it changes it to somewhere between the town official is considered 80 to 90% right, and it really changes the balance. It does not eliminate a citizen complaint. It just gives the balance, places the balance a little bit more in favor of the town official. So, you know, that's why that language was included. And then that's all I've said quite a bit on it. I would welcome any other additional comments that our members may have.
I would have a comment on it, Mr. Chair. I appreciate, I know that you've put a lot of thought toward this, and I think in our conversations about it, your intention is to provide more clarity and information to town residents, other observers. The sense that I get both from your intention and from the law is that by incorporating the video into the minutes, it will not replace the minutes. We still have to create the minutes, is my understanding, under the law. This would give some additional clarity to people if they wanted to go back and get more information. I don't see the harm in putting this. I don't really see a downside, provided that we continue to create minutes that are required under the law.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
I think so.
Julie, you all set?
I think so, yeah.
Right, John, are you all set?
I am.
And Mr. Chair, before you make a motion to accept this, I would just point out a couple of things that I observed in it. This is minute. I believe that TCTV holds themselves out as Templeton Community Television, not Templeton Cable Television, especially with all the work that they do online now. So we just may want to correct that. And then, are we comfortable with having advisory or select board or town administrator contact in writing the Attorney General's office, or do we want to be more specific?
Yeah.
I wanted to leave it open. If nobody else, you know, if the select board or the town administrator don't wish to contact the Attorney General's office, I will.
Okay.
All right, did everybody have a chance to read on this agenda item, the text of possible motions concerning incorporation by reference, which is item 4A? And with the exception of, so cable, it should be community television, is that correct?
I believe that that's correct, but there may be somebody in the room or on the
Yes, it
broadcast.
should be Templeton Community Television. Thank you.
Right then. All right, then I am going to read the motion. I'm going to read the motion, substituting the word community for cable. The motion is this, move that advisory recommend that the select board and town administrator adopt the following language for meeting minutes for all town boards. To the extent that the recordings are accurate, these minutes incorporate by reference the recordings that may have been made of this meeting by Templeton Community Television, TCTV, and YouTube. Additionally, these minutes, absent clear and convincing evidence to the contrary, intend to meet the requirements contained within the Massachusetts open meeting law. And furthermore, that advisory or the select board or the town administrator contact in writing the Massachusetts Attorney General's office seeking further clarification of incorporating by reference recordings of meeting minutes with written meeting minutes. That's the motion.
Before we have a second, can I just make one more comment? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's all right.
Do you want it to say TCTV and YouTube, or TCTV and or YouTube? There may be a time in the future. I mean, we could always change it, but if TCTV makes a recording and it's not via YouTube, or it's not on YouTube, it's on a different platform that exists in the future, or they broadcast it on cable, Do you think it makes sense to use and/or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So I would just move to modify what you read by striking out and incorporating and/or.
all right, so you're making one motion, Mr. Mosher?
I guess I am.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Uh, Okay, all those in favor, I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Mosher,
Aye.
Mr. Caplis,
Yes.
Ms. McComber.
Yes.
All
yes.
right, I also vote yes. So the vote is 5-0 in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Just to make sure we're clear, does that incorporate the entire text that you read as I modified it, or is that us voting on me modifying what you read?
The vote would be community and then the and/or that you suggested.
Okay.
Is that clear to everybody?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just under Robert's rules, just make sure there's, after you, before the vote, is there any other comments?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No.
Are there any other comments?
No.
All right, there being none, this matter is closed. It's a 5-0 vote. Okay, the next item 4B. This would be to approve advisory members to serve on the Capital Improvements Committee, the School Committee as advisory liaison and liaison for monthly department heads meeting. I will say that I polled the members individually, and as for myself, I am going to step down from serving on the Capital Improvements Committee, which I've done for the past 2 years. And in polling the members, Mr. Mosher expressed an interest in the Capital Improvements Committee, but also cited, time constraints because of his position. And also, Ms. Richards, you expressed an interest in serving on the Capital Improvements Committee.
I did, yeah.
Okay, and as far as the school committee as advisory liaison, Mr. Caplis, he indicated that he wished to step down, and the one member who was interested in taking the place of Mr. Caplis as the school committee advisory liaison would be Jacqueline Comper. And then as liaison for the monthly department heads meeting, generally it is the chairman, but I would also, ask Mr. Mosher if you'd be interested in being either the liaison or an alternate liaison for the department, to the department heads monthly meeting, which you could do as a co-chair.
Okay.
So is there any further discussion? Okay, there being none, I would entertain a motion from somebody regarding these positions.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to, for Julie to be on the Capital Improvements Committee, Jacqueline to be on the School Committee, and then obviously Mr. Mosher to be on the department heads meeting for the monthly department heads.
Is there a second?
Second,
Is there any further discussion? Okay, there There being none, I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Caplis,
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, no S on Richard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, Mr. Conlon.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. There'll be a 5-0 vote in favor of these designations. All right, thank you, everybody. The next item, 4C, discuss preparation of the fiscal year 24 annual report. This time, I would like to defer that to our next meeting. At which time I will have something prepared for us to vote on. Does anybody wish to further discuss this?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Are you all set, Mr. Mosier?
I'm all set. Yes.
Mr. Caplis, are you all set?
I am. We just got to make sure we keep in line with the calendar, make sure that we hit everything on target. Because obviously, these are all time constrained events, and making sure we're tracking everything from the previous year to when we get to the annual report.
Yes, also, also, I don't, hopefully, all the members have seen, the email, but it appears that the deadline is sometime in late November, right around Thanksgiving. So I'll make sure that there's something in writing for us at our next meeting. I'm sure we will be meeting next month. All right, going on to,
Mr. Chair,
yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to let you know, on the way in, the back door was locked. And you're running a public meeting. I locked it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I actually was going to mention that when I came in because I had to have them come get me because it is locked.
Oh,
It's unlocked now.
thank
So I
you.
just want to let you know.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
If you're having a meeting to
No.
make sure
thank
it's
you.
unlocked.
Okay, okay, the next item on the,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, do we have to vote on that deferring?
well, why don't we take a vote anyway? Could I have a motion concerning deferring that item until our next meeting? Does anybody wish to make a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Caplis,
Yes.
Richard,
yes.
Ms. McCormick.
Yes.
And I also vote yes.
And in the future, Mr. Chair, if you just want to table that to the next meeting, you can table it to the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for the advice.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'll second.
Okay, the next item is discussion of the full year fiscal year 24 budget versus actual. And what I would like to do is if members have a particular line item, if they could state the page and the line item and the reason for it. And then with the goal being, as we have in the past when Mr. Caplis was chairman, is we came up with a written list which we submitted to Adam, and he would respond, and then that response would be entered into the record at the next meeting. So at this point, does anybody on the full year FY24 expenditure ledger have any concerns?
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Obviously, I don't have any concerns, but I do want to give, a shout out to the staff. I mean, the department has did a fantastic job. All of them stayed within budget. All of them did what they needed to do for the townspeople. And I think that needs to be noted, that obviously we had a balanced budget going into the year. And we have a clean budget coming out, and obviously the audits and stuff were pretty solid. So I think the staff needs to really get a kudos for staying within budget. No one's going over. And if there was a problem, it was notified right away and brought to either our attention as the advisory committee or to the Board of Selectmen. I think they did a great job.
Kudos, I second that.
I do. I just would like to add to that, Mr. Kaplis, that in particular, our town manager, through his efforts and the efforts of the select board, is that it appears that we have a lot more free cash than certainly last year. And a lot of that is due to the skill of Adam, and I think he's underappreciated for his budgetary skills. Does anybody else wish to comment on the full year? Okay, there being no further discussion, do I need a motion at this
Yeah, I'll
time?
make a motion to put this into the record.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, then I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplis,
Yes.
Ms. Richard.
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is item 4E, discussion of the July 2024 budget versus actual. And again, what I would like to do is give each member a chance to look over that.
Mr. Chair, I have one question. On obviously page 130 advice. What did we spend $196 on? Was that me? I don't remember. I don't remember.
If I had to guess, I'll ask Adam, but if I had to guess, it sounds like it might have been copying expense.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, what page was that?
It was on page 1. It was the advisory committee. Under committee supports would be the 8 lines. It looks like it's 8 or 9 lines from the top.
While we're on advisory committee, line item on page 1, looks like the reserve fund of 47,500 is put in parentheses. That's been changed to 50,000, which is recognized in the allocated amount, but that looks like it probably needs to be updated.
Yes. So the 47.5 should be updated to 50,000.
Or excluded altogether, it seems redundant.
Mhm.
Are there any other concerns at this time?
I'll make a motion to accept this into the record.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, I will conduct a roll call vote. Mr. Moser,
yes.
Mr. Caplis,
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Okay, and Kelsey, do you have information? Okay, good. All right, the next item was proposed by Mr. Caplis. And it's how to best bring the town into compliance with the recently passed Heroes Act. Mr. Caplis, you wish to comment on this?
I do. Obviously, the HERO Act law that was just passed, I think the town needs to either come up with a specific bylaw in place that mimics what the Mass General law is, like typically most of our bylaws are in compliance with. Not that their town is outside the limits of the compliance, but obviously we can better enforce that and recommend to the select board that potentially a bylaw might be in place to mimic the law of the HERO Act that was just passed. It was actually just brought into the DOS report today concerning that the HEROES Act and what it entails and how it entails. And I believe everybody on the advisory committee should have got the DOS report. It should be in the advisory committee link as well. It outlines it in specific parameters like what it does, what it's for, especially the real estate tax exemption went from 100% veterans getting $1,000 to $2,000. It talked about the 90% and less getting instead of $400, again, it's supposed to be $800, and also vehicle tax exemptions as well are also placed in there. So I think at the end of the day, what we should be doing is looking how to give it more advancements to the people out there that say, hey, we have these benefits that are there, so why don't we use them? And I hope the town can comply with the existing guidelines of the statute.
If I may, Mr. Caplis, I had a chance to look up the law as passed. And it's a very comprehensive overhaul of veteran services. It's not just the property tax exemption, but it concerns medical benefits, definition of a veteran, that was changed. And it was just a whole host of changes. I printed off a sheet, which I'm going to make available to the other members. I did not place it in the packet. But in looking at this act, just these two sheets, there's more than 20 items, 20 changes. And the impact on the town of Templeton appears to be more than just increasing the exemption for veterans for the property taxes. There are probably at least 4 or 5 other areas that may be affected. And I just think that somebody within town government, be it town council or members of the select board or the town administrator, they really need to look at this act just because it's so comprehensive and there may be a lot of ramifications.
Oh, you're right. There was the stipend went up $500. So instead of $1,000 in February and $1,000 in August, it's now 15. It's like 1,200 some change. In August and $1,200 something in February. So I mean, you're right. It is extensive. I mean, it's probably 2 inches plus thick. I printed it off, and I'm only halfway through it right now myself. But I'm probably gonna meet with talk with the veterans agent in town. Maybe we can come up with something that we can present, like a one-sheeter type of thing, kind of like the DLS sheet did, and then we can, put this forward to potentially with the select board to say maybe we should be, because again, the town meeting's coming up quick, so there's no way we're going to be able to present a bylaw, by the end of October. So I mean, I think at this point, at least if we understand it, we can actually start pushing the town administrator and the select board to say, hey, this is out here. We need to start looking at this. So I think it might be beneficial to a lot of veterans here in town.
Did you read the motion regarding the HERO Act?
I did.
Should we Should we take a vote on that recommendation or should we defer that?
No, I mean, we have to do something now, so might as well do something now. Did everybody get a chance to look at the HERO Act? I mean, did anybody get a chance to look at that? I mean, it's really extensive. But obviously, you know, where the rubber meets the road is where the dollars hit. So as the advisory committee, we're concerned about the money piece of it. So how is this going to affect the veterans, and then how is this going to affect the town? And then reimbursement from the town, from either the state or the federal government on these reimbursements for the veterans. So we want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row, but at least if we can start something now to at least, you know, kind of force the hand a little bit to say, we're advising the select board to at least act on the best interest of the community and the veterans in the community. I think this is because of the dollar piece. That's why I kept bringing up the dollar piece. I mean, there was a whole bunch of other acts, that, you know, a whole bunch of other things in there, such as the definition of a veteran, you know, because again, a lot of these things have changed. You know, I can go back in history, but I mean, I can tell you U.S. Coast Guard folks that were not considered veterans from like 1979 to 1986. So now they're considered veterans now, and they're going back and forth between the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security. So, and now they're under the Department of Defense. But I mean, there's a lot of things that are in there. But obviously, my main focus to point was the money piece. And I think if we can at least mimic the law within the bylaw, or generate a bylaw that mimics the law, so we can all work in the same team. You know, because right now I don't think the town's 100% compliant from what I can read. I mean, and obviously I'm not the smartest of a fifth grader here, but I think I'm smart enough to read a little bit to say this needs to potentially change.
I think I'm wondering about the total dollars, because I think there's 500 or 600 veterans in town, and they may own 500 to 600 pieces of property. And if the exemption was increased by $500, you're talking about potentially over $200,000.
Well, based on the last census, I think we're over like 750 veterans in town. But again, this only will include like the 100% disabled veterans under the guidelines of the law. So I don't know what the amount is of the 100% disabled veterans are in town. That just gives you the total window of the 750 veterans that are in town. I don't know what, I mean, the assessor office keeps control of that and keeps track of that, because all 100%ers all veterans have to come in and sign the ledger for their real estate exemption or their tax abatement for their real estate, for their automobile. So I have no problem looking into that. If you allow me, I can meet with the assessor and get a better number and where that number is going to be. But again, there is some reimbursement here. It's not like we're taking, you know, taxation dollars and the town's going to be losing all of that dollars. It's not like that. I mean, it's not 100% reimbursed by the federal government or the state, but there is a percentage of reimbursement. Not to mention the fact that they already have $1 million in overlay. So I don't think it's going to hurt them that much.
I just look at it from the point of view as that every day that goes by without something being done, you know, the potential money grows.
I agree. I agree.
Does anybody else wish to make any comments, observations?
I agree as well. I think that it really we need to put a little pressure on the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to take a little bit tighter look at this. Because I don't think it's on their front burner, and it should be.
I agree.
When I look at the numbers, I feel like it should be on their front burner at this point.
Right. Has everybody had a chance to review the possible motion concerning the HERO Act?
I have, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to make some comments before we entertain a motion if possible. I am very pleased that our legislature and our governor were able to act and introduce some additional benefits for our veterans. As far as the HERO Act goes, many of the provisions are requirements under law, and some of them are local options that we can opt into. As you guys were just discussing the property tax exemptions and the relatively high number of veterans that we have in town compared to other communities in our state is a great strength of ours. At the same time as the advisory committee, really the guardians of the finances of the town, I'm not sure if it makes sense for us to adopt a motion tonight before we have an assessment of what the potential financial impact could be on the town. Whether the board, the select board votes one way or another, approves things, doesn't approve things. I feel like we would not be doing our due diligence without having an understanding of the impact on the finances of the town before we make a recommendation. So I don't know that we're in a position to make a recommendation tonight without having more information about the financial impact. Mr. Kaplis discussed earlier that there may be some reimbursement. There is some reimbursement. We don't know how much of that is reimbursed. We're not sure of the 100% disabled versus others. It sounds like there's a lot of information that we would benefit from to make an informed decision that we don't have tonight. So I would hope that we'd be able to get some more information and have a firm understanding. As Mr. Chair, you said, it may be $200,000 impact. It may be a $500,000 impact. It may be very little impact on the budget and revenues of the town. I would like to know that before we make a recommendation of the select board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I feel like, oh, it's not really a recommendation. Well, it is, but we're asking them to start reviewing this. So needing the numbers, I'm not sure if we need the numbers. I agree with Mr. Moser saying, you know, put all our ducks in a row. But at the same time, I think they should be aware that there's a potential for something to come up. If they don't get like the hey, heads up from us, you know, they're going to be scrambling later on down the road when we present numbers, if it does have a big impact. They're going to have a very short window to figure out where to move the money around, was my thought.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can address the comments of Ms. Richard, I agree that we want to make sure that we're, as a town, implementing all of this as efficiently and quickly as possible. My only concern with the proposed language for a motion is that we take part of the language is that the select board and town administrator take all necessary steps, et cetera, including incorporating the expansion of municipal property tax exemptions. That may very well end up being a great recommendation, but we don't know what the impact on the town finances will be on that. And I would like to know that before we make a recommendation. That's all.
I take a somewhat different view. I think I look at this as a way to kind of put this on the front burner. And I trust that the select board and town administrator would look into the financial impact. I see this recommendation as really us as a group of citizens asking the select board to make this a priority because it needs to be looked at, not next year, not even 6 months from now. Something really needs to be done soon. Because each day or each week that goes by, you know, the financial impact on the town would appear to me to grow greater and greater as time goes by. So I just feel the time is of the essence. And yes, the the proposed motion it's kind of broad, but I think also the select board would be looking at our minutes, and if we either place something in the motion or from the recording of this meeting, I think it would be pretty clear that our intent would be to put this on the front burner, make this a priority.
So I agree with that sentiment, and I would just consider maybe adding or making clear that we would like to know the financial impact of all of the provisions, including the required ones. This is something that's new, and we want to make sure that our veterans get all the benefits that they're entitled to. And I think it's our obligation to understand and advise other parts of the town what the financial impact of that would be. So I would hope that we would include that in any motion.
Do you, Mr. Moser, do you have any suggested language to either strike or add?
So the language that was sent to us is a motion regarding the HERO Act. And in description, move that the advisory recommend that the select board and town administrator at once take all necessary steps that will bring the town of Templeton into full compliance with Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024, also known as the HERO Act, in particular incorporating the expansion of municipal property tax exemptions for veterans contained within the HERO Act. In looking at this, I would want to add or acknowledge that we would like to know what the impact of that would be so that we can make a proper recommendation. And if that is our recommendation, to incorporate all of that as soon as possible, just understanding what the impact on the town finances would be.
Makes sense.
So maybe include an analysis of the financial impact of incorporating the voluntary or optional provisions of the HERO Act.
I think that's a very good suggestion. So I guess the question is, should we add something to the end, the very end of the motion concerning, language concerning the financial impact?
So maybe we say, move that advisory recommend the select board and town administrator at once take all necessary steps that will bring the town of Templeton into full compliance with Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024, also known as the HERO Act, period.
Okay.
Additionally, analysis on the impact of required and voluntary provisions on town finance income, something to that effect.
How about language like this, after the period, after HERO Act? In particular, we recommend exploring or analyzing the impact on the municipal property tax exemptions on the town of Templeton.
Sure. Yeah,
Friday,
and any other provision,
And any other,
right.
because it's gonna be others.
Yes,
It's not gonna just be the property, you know what I mean? So you wanna do any
I do
other.
think, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Richard.
That's all right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So I would agree with that we look at the impact of the tax exemption and any other provisions, just so we know, if we approve every single one of them tomorrow, that would be great. And we need to be able to figure out the rest of the budget, right? That's our job. So without that information, it's going to be difficult to make proper forecasts for the rest of the year and next year and ongoing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we do have time. I mean, because some of these provisions aren't even taking effect until July 1. Some actually take effect in year 2026 under the clause 22I and 22J. So we do have some time. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I agree with Mr. Moser. I think having a full financial snapshot of when, where, and how many veterans, et cetera, I think that should be a good start.
Okay. What I suggest that we do then is, why don't we defer this until our next meeting? And during that period of time, I will work with any member on language, language after the period after HERO Act, the last sentence. I'll work on language and circulate that as individually as a possible motion, and then hopefully we'll have something in writing. I mean, I don't want to violate the, the Open Meeting Act, but I think that, something can be crafted. Why don't we do this? Mr. Mosier, would you be willing to help me, craft some language for our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I think that's what we'll do. So why don't we do this? I would entertain a motion to defer this until our next meeting in order to produce some revised language.
Mr. Chair, we can do that, but I'm not sure that we need a motion to do that. It's up to you.
Mr. Kaplis, what do you think?
Just table it to the next meeting, figure out what you want to do. You don't need a motion.
Okay. All right, then what we'll do is we will table it until the next meeting, and I just want to make sure that there's no vote necessary to table. Okay.
There is not.
All right. All right. Thank you all for the very good discussion. So we will table this until the next meeting. All right. The next item is 4G, recommendation concerning reserve returns. Mr. Kaplis, I believe that was an item that you initially wanted to have included in the agenda. I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak on that issue first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, as we all got the end of the year report, there was over $800,000 returned back, which will end up on our free cash worksheet at the when they close out for the year, which was a significant amount of money. And a lot of it was due to staff, because obviously everybody knows that positions is where the money is. So I like to, so that people can understand that each person that's employed by the town, it's about $100,000 per person. That's not their salary, that's salary plus benefits. So that's the best rule of thumb I can provide. So getting that amount of money back. So I mean, the lack of staff at, the different departments that we have, a lot of that money came back. Now, my concern is on the return end, where's that money going to go? Obviously, it's going to go into free cash. So, I mean, obviously, we just borrowed $400,000+ out of our stabilization to offset the school budget. Now, obviously, we're not going to do that again. I had a little chest pain even thinking about doing it last year, but I agreed with it because obviously there was pretty much our hands were tied behind our back and we had no place else to go, and we had to get that school budget established with the amount of kids that are coming into the schools, the growth of the community itself, the amount of services that are lacking because we don't have the people to do the jobs. We're short police officers, we're short firefighters, we're short people at the highway department. I'm like, it's across the board. But my concern now is like that $800,000. Well, what do we do now? I know the town administrator, who's the finance, he's the chief financial officer, so he understands. I'm sure he already has a plan. Obviously, I would like to see, if possible, some of that money returned back to the stabilization. Now, obviously, that would be like a recommendation from John. I'm like, if we're going to borrow money, then we should probably put some of it back. Now, we do have management policies in place. We do have percentages that have to go where they need to go in different departments. And we do have the need for rolling stock. I know there's an ambulance that's be coming up very soon. I know the highway department has their needs for rolling stock as well. And I think all that stuff is important. But I think having a good stabilization account, also makes us a better community. It'll also help our lenders. So when we, as far as our percentages of, what money we owe. I mean, I think at the end of the day, everything helps, when we get our bond ratings and stuff, all this helps. So when they look at our stabilization account and it's X, I mean, that helps our bond rating. Everything helps the bond rating going forward. It's like the town's, ability to manage its funding. Now, again, I know Adam does a great job, and I know, he's got a plan in place. I'm sure, and I know he does, because that's just the way the type of guy that he is. And he has no problem saying no to these department heads when it comes to funding. But I really wish, some of that money would go back if possible, because again, I don't know where we're going to end up, come, next year as far as funding goes, especially for the school. I mean, they're getting more kids today, so it's like, how is that going to impact? But as far as the return dollars, how is that gonna, what can we do to let the select board to say, hey, I think at the best, we should come back and say, okay, I think maybe we should put, I know what the percentage is. So say the percentage is X, and I'm just using $100,000. Well, we're going to put $100,000 back in stabilization. I'm like, well, that's nice. Can we try to at least maybe put at least half back in? So instead of, 4, we could put 2, or meet somewhere in the middle. As far as a recommendation from us, I mean, I would recommend the entire 400,000, but I mean, obviously that's just me. And what the select board does, that's what they do on their own side of the house. But I think at the end of the day, if they get a recommendation from the advisory to say, hey, we are looking at the full snapshot of the financial capabilities of the community and having a robust, which isn't robust. I mean, $1.2 million, $1.3 million in stabilization really isn't, as robust as we should be. But again, it's town government. And I don't want to think, town government and government in general, it doesn't save money. Towns, governments, it's not made to save money. It wasn't projected to save money. It was actually made to spend money, believe it or not. And obviously, we're trying to do our best in order to make that stabilization account, have the ability to make it where it's at, so we can, if we need to pull from it for an emergency down the road, we have that ability. I would never advise borrowing it from it again, especially falling under $1 million. I would never do that. But I would definitely see if we can advise the select board to maybe, move a little bit more than what the percentage is into that stabilization account, since we did end up with an $800,000, plus at the end of the year based on what the department heads did. And again, I can't give them enough kudos. They did a great job managing their budgets, and it wasn't their fault that all that money got returned. It was because of lack of staff, positions that weren't filled, and stuff like that. So moving forward, I think at the end of the day, if we could advise the select board to put some of that money back that we borrowed from the stabilization account, is my end of story.
Do you wish to make a motion at this time? Well, I suppose what I should ask is, do any other members have any comments on this item? Do you wish to comment?
No.
Do you wish to comment? Mr. Mosier, do you wish to comment?
Not at this time, thank you.
I just would make one additional comment, Mr. Kaplis, is this year the legislature increased the aid to the municipal side of the house by 3%, and also increased on the school side 4.5%. So there's a difference of 1.5%, and I really feel that if what has happened in the last 2 years is to be true going forward, is that the school department will probably be looking for a great deal of money again, and we may be faced with draining the stabilization account even more, or using up much of this money.
I agree.
And I think it's a real problem. Long term is, yes, I would like to see the schools supported, but long term, it's very detrimental to the town finances.
Well, unfortunately, we're under Proposition 2.5. So unfortunately, our hands and feet are tied together. I always hear, the town folk tell me, why is it always on the backs of the taxpayers? I'm like, well, unfortunately, because we live here. We have to support the people that and the services that we have here, and educating our children, I think, is a huge support. And I think, I have kids in the system. I know a lot of us have kids in the system, and I want the best for them as they possibly get. Because again, these kids are competing with the kids from the 495 belt in, for great colleges from BC, BU, Harvard. I mean, these kids are going all over the place. I mean, how are these kids going to compete if we don't give them the tools that they need to compete? And so I want the schools to be supported, but on the same token, we also have to see what our finances are too. I mean, because we can't, drain our accounts and drain our coffers, because all that's going to do is put us in a place that this town doesn't want to be in. And this town's been there in 2016. This town's been there. And I'll tell you, you don't want to go there. So you need to, or we need to collectively look at that. But you're right. I mean, they're going to go up. I mean, they're probably going to look at least another $500,000, if not more, because they're going to need more teachers. Because, I mean, they have, 5 kindergarten classes, they have 5 first grade classes. They, you know what I mean? It's just going up and up and up. And the days of Templeton graduating, 80 kids is going to be out the window. I mean, this year I think it's 94 kids. Next year it's 110. The year after that it's 120, and you can do the math from there. So these kids need to be educated, and if you don't have the teachers to support that, and I don't support 30 kids in a classroom, I would never do that. I mean, I'm having a hard enough time swallowing 22 kids in a classroom, especially with the special needs and everything else that has to go on. And I am glad that they did increase their budget to get those paras in the preschool, in the kindergarten classrooms, because they needed them desperately. And obviously that was one of the things that was Dr. Calzavan's biggest concern, is mainly his staff. It's the people piece. I mean, yeah, they work on a $23 million budget each year, the school does. And you wonder why. Well, majority of that is staff. It's not the pencils, it's not the erasers and the paper clips, it's the people piece, unfortunately. And we have to support them as much as we can, but on the same side, like I'm saying, we have to look at what the financial impact is going to be on the town, and utilization of our stabilization is not really what we should be looking at. We should be looking at other avenues potentially.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to see us
Yeah.
bring in growth. It's either bring in some growth, bring in some, companies or something, or you're gonna go up on our real estate taxes in order to support the school system. I mean, that's what we're gonna come down to. We can't keep dipping, I agree. Stabilization, they already dipped really quick, and they'll dip again. And I don't agree with that, because in 2015, there wasn't anything there. And trust me, you don't want to go back there.
No.
You just don't.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to add that it's not an either or situation, we can't rob Peter to pay Paul,
Right.
and then we don't have, fire or police. People are moving in, people are living here, and building, the giant homes, and they're not for just one couple, it's for a family. There's like 4-bedroom houses going in town. You need to be able to have the money to pay for the police, the fire, and the school. So I agree with Ms. Richard and Mr. Kaplis that, we need to see some growth and some change, because it's going downhill if not.
Well, I don't want to disillusion anybody, but I mean, I'm a huge supporter of growth. I mean, obviously I am. Business, which is great. We get 8% business in this community. 8% seems like it's a small number, but it's really not compared to the 12% that Gardner has. So compared by the amount of people versus industry, I mean, we're pretty much neck and neck there with our 8% of industry. I mean, there are other avenues that we can look at down the road, such as differentiation of tax rates between commercial and residential. There's different things that we potentially could look at. What that will bring into the community and how much dollars that will be. But my concern specifically about this article that we're talking about right now, this topic we're talking about, the 800,000, well, it's over 800,000, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, all of that needs to be discussed. But I think we need to find a way to work with Adam to say, I think some of that money, maybe not the whole 400,000, but some more than what the percentage would be, depending on what my estimates would be as far as what free cash, when that gets certified, what it would be. Would only look at about $100,500 thousands of dollars back in stabilization. I mean, I would hope that we can find a way to get a little more in there to offset the loss that we did take. That's all I'm saying.
Going forward, you wish to defer this for a month, and we give you an opportunity to prepare a motion, Mr. Kaplis.
Sure.
And if there's no further discussion, I would like to table this. Is that agreeable to everybody? That agreeable to
Yes,
table?
it is.
Okay, Mr. Mosier, is that agreeable to you? To table
My
this?
audio cut out. I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Chair.
Would this be agreeable to you to table this for 1 month so that Mr. Kaplis can prepare a motion?
Yes.
All right, thank you all. Okay, item 4H concerns the Boynton Library repairs / replacement of knob and tube electrical wiring, a damaged rug near the main entrance, and repairing the plastering. This is an item that Jacqueline asked that I place on the agenda. So if you would like to discuss why you placed that on the agenda.
Yes, so as a mom, when I moved into Templeton, the first place I went was to the library with my children, because that's where you find out all the good information and you make connections. And just going there for the past 9 years, I've just seen the library kind of falling apart. You know, we've had there was a heating system thing that leaked all over the floor and it left a huge stain on the rug. And this summer it was very hot and it doesn't allow for the library to be used and accessed by all of the residents in town, because there's knob and tube wiring, which doesn't support having air conditioning. You know, there's cooling center is used at the senior center in Baldwinville, and I don't know that if I had the option would take my kids to the senior center. It seems more plausible to go hang out at the library and be able to read books and play with the toys, but not when it's like 105 degrees in the building. It's also unsafe for the staff who have to work there, and closing the library when it's only open 3 days a week is just, or 4 days a week, is just not feasible. We already have limited time. It also doesn't allow for the library to offer programs for the summer for the students in town to go and pick out books when it's hot and closed. And reading is important for our children. So I would just like to see a plan that these things are going to be put out to bid soon, the next, I don't know, what's a reasonable amount of time, 30 days, 60 days, that, you know, we're making movements towards replacing and repairing the things that are wrong in our library so that something catastrophic doesn't happen, because knob and tube wiring it's very unsafe. It's also damaging our books to have it be extremely hot in there in the summertime. And I think it would be a great resource for this side of Templeton to be able to have it as a cooling center and have more activities in the summer for the students and the residents here in town.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I,
Yes.
I mean, what I would probably recommend or suggest is, turf this to Mr. Sozik, Buildings and Grounds, because this is a Buildings and Grounds issue, because I know the library is also sanctioned under an umbrella, the library fund. So I'm not sure what we as the town can do as far as what recommendations we can provide. I'm sure that knowing how Mr. Sozik is, I mean, he's usually really good with all that stuff. So I mean, I would really talk to him and see if there's something, more that we can do as far as what the library wants and needs.
If I may, I did have a chance to talk about this agenda item with Adam, and he indicated to me that the repairs, particularly the knob and tube wiring, are he's preparing a bid package, and that there is also the money available to make these repairs. Perhaps Mr. Sosek, who is here, could comment further on that if you wish.
And just also, I'm just not to interrupt, Mr. Chair, also CP funds, because that's a historic building. CPC funds are also available, and looking at their
We're
account.
getting plenty of that. Yep.
Yep, and they have enough money to at least do a couple of those projects to appease, Jacqueline. I think, because again, all the kids go there. They want to go there. They want to use the library, and she's right. I mean, it's been, they've been doing a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they replaced the roof. They redid the ramp for the handicap entrance. They have been doing some stuff, but it's just, I think the guild needs to get together and either utilization of CBC funds and talk to Bob, see what Bob has to say.
Mr. Sosek, do you care to jump in and comment?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Chair and Board. Yes, the Boynton Library, we've done a lot of work at the library. Like Mr. Kaplan said, we've done the roof. We painted the exterior. We remortared a lot of joints in the brickwork. We redid the handicap ramp. We redid the side steps with a ADA compliant railing. And now we're moving into the inside. The malfunction with the furnace, that's unpredictable. That's something that happened and was acted on as soon as I was notified. There is some mismatched carpet in there. We're not going to recarpet it until we remodel it. So it is a temporary thing. There was no damage to the flooring underneath, no mold, which is a good sign. The electrical, I do have, we hired an electrician to give us a scope of work that we need to go out to bid. Right now, I'm at a little bit of a standstill because I want to make the right decision. And do we do the electrical now, or do we need to plaster and fix all the ceilings and walls first before the electrician comes in and rewires the place? So we're currently, Andrew Canada, the architect that did do a lot of work in that place. I'm very proud of that place. I did reach out to him 3 weeks to a month ago, ask him if he would like to take on the interior. I know Jackie was also looking at surrounding libraries that were recently redone and trying to get some names or a new architect, because Andrew is retiring. And a couple of weeks ago, he did reply back to me that he would like to introduce a new architect that has a lot of library experience. And hopefully he can come in and give us some suggestions. We're supposed to have that meeting. I'm waiting for Andrew and Adam to get that set up, to come out to introduce this new guy. And I would like to really get a professional opinion on what the next step should be. Should it be electrical, or should we do ceiling and wall work first? Because I don't want to work backwards or make more work for the other contractor, working against one another. I want it to fall in the order. So I talked to Jackie and she agrees. We get an architect. If he says go ahead and do the electrical, then Adam can get that out to bid as soon as we find out. But we're aware of the monies and the gift monies that they have, and we intend to use them. So it's slow work in progress between waiting for the architect and contractors, getting more far apart and so busy. It's what the world is coming to. Is everybody's struggling for help, like John Kaplos mentioned, and all our departments. And it's not just our department, it's private industry as well. I just got notified.
I'm in a meeting, thanks.
Just got notified today that those 2 trucks that we ordered for ARPA money last year, they just lost 4 employees. So instead of pushing out 15 trucks a month, they're probably going to be pushing out 10 or 8 trucks a month. So there's still a crisis out there. The AC, I'm waiting for the electrician again. We got to test the circuits to see how many things are on the outlets. If it's overloaded already, we can't just keep throwing the ACs in. I want to put one in each room is my goal. But I got to wait and get that tested out. But it's work in progress, and we need a lot of patience.
Does anybody else wish to comment at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a quick comment in regards to, you had brought up the senior center and it's not too comfortable bringing our kids there. I can say, being a member of the CERT team, and when we opened up during the heat wave, we only had a couple of people that came in and enjoyed that beautiful building that they have put so much money into. There is a library. in the senior center. It's no longer the senior center, it's the community center. And there is a pool table room, and to me, I felt like there was plenty there. If our younger generation wanted to utilize that, I honestly believe we should use that building. It doesn't get utilized enough, in
And
my opinion.
I feel like it should be more advertised then. I mean, we
Yeah,
went to one,
it
we went
really
to
should
one
be.
event
Yeah.
there, and I felt like maybe my kids were swinging from the chandeliers a little bit. It
Yeah.
was a little tight and cramped space, and I was like, I don't want anybody to break
Yeah.
anything. So we haven't been back since, but you know, it would just be nice to have options all around town that
Oh,
people can go,
absolutely.
because what if everybody did go? I mean, it would be a
Right.
little cramped, but you
Yeah,
know.
it's a really big building. It should be utilized much more than it is being utilized currently, I think.
Mr. Richards, if I could correct you on the pool room, there's no longer a pool table in that activity.
Oh.
room. It's a activity room, and then they have the large room for their functions as well.
So they took the pool table out.
Yeah, there weren't that many people making use of it. We still had, it actually was in the auction last year.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for that correction.
I was gonna ask, where is it and when can we go play? Mr. Chair, if I may make a comment.
Yes.
I just want to recognize Mr. Sozik and his department for their quick response to the damaged flooring and rug in the library. You guys were on top of that. It sounds like there's a lot of agreement. I know that this is an important issue to Ms. Macumber or Mrs. Macumber and a lot of members of the community, and Mr. Sozik and his department and the town, and there's goals to get this done. And hopefully we can figure out with the architect and what needs to be done, not only an order in which to do these repairs, but maybe a loose time frame so that we can get the library to a place that we're all proud of and want to bring our kids and family, and we can be cool and comfortable and enjoy it. So I always appreciate when we can work collaboratively together. And Mr. Sozik, you're great at that with us. So let's keep working on it.
Yeah, it's just, if I may, it's just like the senior center that took many, well, I'm going on my 6th year, so, and that just got fully in compliance with ADA and a lot of stuff wrapped up in that building as well. We're also waiting, I believe Andrew Canada finished the drawings for the kitchen, so it's a work in progress. It just takes time.
Yep, sure does.
All right, at this time, I would like to ask or try to reach a consensus. There is a possible motion for this item, the Boynton Library repairs. And I guess my first question would be, in light of what Mr. Sosek said, it appears to be that there are monies in place and that Mr. Sosek has a plan and that he's moving forward, except that municipal government quite often is a process, a lengthy process. Is there a consensus? Do we need a motion at this time? I guess that's my question. Anybody care to comment?
Mr. Chair, I don't think we need a motion.
I would agree with John on that.
Yeah, I would too.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Progress.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, once we do get involved with this architect, I will definitely keep you guys informed, and maybe we can set some timelines on getting things more done. Right now, I wouldn't set a timeline on trying to get everything done.
For the chair, Bob, you're keeping up with Adam's weekly report anyways, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, then what I would suggest, since the majority feel that we should have no motion at this time, why don't we table this with the idea of reviving this perhaps at the end of the year in 3 or 4 months? And, maybe Mr. Sosek can give us an update at that time. Is that agreeable to?
Yes, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, is that agreeable? Mr. Mosier, is that agreeable to you?
Sure, yeah, with an idea that we can hopefully hone some time, understanding it won't be tomorrow, but hopefully an identifiable amount of time.
Okay. All right, then what I will do is I will table this for a period of 4 months. So in December or January, this will come up again. And I think that's fair to Mr. Sozak. I think he'll have more information to report to us at that time. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move on to the next item. This is a discussion regarding the position of Senior Center Director. I am the one who placed this on the agenda. What I've noticed, and the reason why I placed this on the agenda is, and I've also discussed this with Jackie Prime, but it appears that the majority of the towns in our area have a full-time senior center director. And the town that is closest to us geographically and in size, Winchendon, they have a full-time senior center director, and yet the population of seniors that they have to deal with and her duties are really very comparable to the town of Templeton. It appears that the position of senior center director being part-time, it appears that there has been a considerable turnover in the last 5 or 6 years. And in my mind, whenever you see turnover, it's because the position either does not pay enough or the tasks are too great for the pay and the hours offered. It's just, I think there's a disconnect there. When I did bring this up with Jackie Prime, she was in agreement with me that, she does feel that there is a need for a senior center director. And that is why I placed that on the agenda. I realize that the town is in a financial bind in many ways. But I also feel that this is a need that needs to be prioritized. So at this time, I would welcome any comments that anybody wishes to make on this agenda item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken, the director was hired by the Friends of the Elders, correct still? Is that how the contract's still written?
I don't know. The only answer I can give you is I don't know.
That would be a question to Adam, because I believe the Friends of Templeton Elders is the hiring authority for that position. It wasn't actually a town position, even though we paid the position. I would definitely have to do some more research on that to see. Julie, do you remember how that worked?
Yeah, I believe it's not a town, it was not a town position. That's why it's remaining part-time.
Right.
I think they were being hired, yeah.
It was a board through the Templeton Elders that hired the position.
I believe so, yeah.
That was one of the problems we had with, at different actions, and that was why the position was the way it is, and that's why I think it's at part-time now because of that.
I do too.
Well, my impression of the Friends is that it appears to me to have been a troubled board. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, we don't want to go down that road right now.
No, I don't want to go down that road either, but
Yeah.
that's my impression. So I guess the question then becomes is why shouldn't the town, fund that position and fund it as a full-time position, like the town of Winchendon, or the town of Westminster, or the town of Ashburnham.
Yeah, I'm not sure how those other towns operate their council on aging department. I know Templeton was kind of skewed a little bit from, and again, we walked into this type of thing. So this happened like many moons ago. And there was multiple issues with it from previous directors where it was full-time, and half the salary was paid by Mark. There was like a huge influx, I guess you'd want to say. I mean, so I'm not sure. I think the best thing to do is talk to Adam and see where that position lies and how that, if that becomes a town position, then that's something that we could discuss. If it's not a town position, even though the town paid the position, but it was controlled by the Council on Aging. It wasn't controlled by the town. So if there was an infraction made and the person couldn't be reprimanded by the town, it would have been through the council on aging, and it never was done. So I would first find out through Adam to find out, number one, who owns the position. Is it something that the town has to pay, but it's still controlled by the elders and that board that has its own idiosyncrasies that they have to deal with anyways, concerning like the kitchen and other issues that's been going on there for some time now. I think that would be an Adam question first before we can move. I mean, to have any type of recommendation at this point concerning any type of position, full-time, part-time, or alike.
Well, I will have to say that when I discussed this with Jackie Prime, that I did not discuss the funding sources. I just discussed with her the need in general for a full-time senior center director. So what you're saying, Mr. Kaplis, is it sounds like there's several facets to this issue.
There is, and I think those facets need to be addressed and determined first. I'm not going to disagree with you, but also know that they keep track of the amount of elders that go into that structure, and I can tell you that there are a lot that Templeton residents use that building, but there are also other elders that I think they circle around. Where Athol elders come and use it, Winston elders come and use it, depending on which one's closed, which one's open, which has cooler activities. So it's not just Templeton elder residents that use that building. There's other residents other outside Templeton residents that use that facility as well. I'm not saying that there's no need for a full-time position there. I'm not saying that, but I think we need to find out first where the position is and who owns the position. And where the funding source is going to come, if it's going to, stem with, Mark paying a percentage of it like it did in the past, or is it going to be a fully funded position based on what the town resources are? I mean, and not that I don't want to pay for a full-time, or I think a recommendation for a full-time, person at the senior center is not going to be, director is going to be great. I think that's going to be awesome, but there's other things that we're looking at too, as we discussed earlier. With the firefighter department, the paramedics in town that are short-staffed, the police are short-staffed. I mean, by huge numbers. I'm not talking like one or two people. I mean, based on numbers, I mean, the police are short like 4 cops. I know the fire department short at least 2 to 3 firefighter paramedics running 24-hour operations 7 days a week with 6 full-timers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a we're trying to provide a service to the community that's growing. I mean, immensely. I mean, it's growing so much that it's hard for these outside organizations. Even Bob Sozak, who's on the line, he'll tell you about plowing. I mean, with having to contract plow guys now because we don't have enough staff to plow the roads to make sure it's safe for everybody to drive. People get upset because the school closed for the snowstorm. I'm like, well, it wasn't just because of the school didn't close just because of the snowstorm. And there's other attributes that are in there to include the communication that the superintendent has with the director of public works. I mean, if we don't get the roads plowed, then the buses can't go down, then the school has to be, there's a lot of facets involved here. So to identify the first need of a senior center director, I think I would table this as well, unfortunately, until we get more information concerning the position itself and then the funding source.
I like the idea. I think a good idea maybe, and again, we don't want to run afoul of the open meeting law, but perhaps 2 members of advisory, could meet with Jackie Prime and Adam to discuss this, to discuss the, the many facets of this issue. I just think when I look at what other towns do, it seems like what they do is they fund it a traditional way. It's a town position, and there are a lot of elderly people in town. I mean, I'm one of them, and I know that it's we really need a full-time senior services director. I think that maybe that's the best way to go forward, is to table this and see if 1 or 2 of us can discuss this with Adam and Jackie.
I'd love to be one of those 2.
I'll be with you. I'll do that. That'll be a good task.
We have a good history with that.
We do.
All right, Mr. Mosier and Ms. McCombie, do you have any problem with
Nope.
with that? Mr. Mosier, do you have any problem with Mr. Caplis and Ms. Richard discussing with Adam?
I'd be interested to get their feedback, and I'd also welcome Ms. Prime perhaps to speak with us during a future meeting.
Great idea.
All right, then that's what we'll do. We'll table it and you know, John and Julie, if you could talk with you know, Adam and Jackie at some point, I think that would be very helpful.
Great.
Okay,
Sure thing.
all right. The table is busy tonight.
I'm still upset that the pool table's gone.
Me too. I can't get over that.
Yeah, nobody-
Kitchen's not ready yet either. Just
Don't get me started. Don't get me. The pool table's probably at Bob's house.
All right, the next item, item J, this is something that Mr. Caplis proposed. It's a recommendation of the interest on invested funds. Mr. Caplis, do you care to address that agenda item?
Sure. I mean, just like any type of investments, the town does invest their monies. They do invest. I think they use Fidelity is the main investment source that they use. I think at the end of I think what I like to see more is what the percentage of the yields are coming back. We don't see those. So if you're putting $1 million in an account through Fidelity, you know, what interest rate are we getting and what's the return? Because I haven't seen that. Has anybody else seen it? If I'm talking out of turn, please let me know. I know we had this conversation like a year ago about investments and how money should, you know, towns' money should be invested, making money off the money that the taxpayers are putting in. But what's the return and where is the return and how much is the return? I think that's my main question. Not so much that it's not being invested or it is invested. I know it is. I just don't know what the return is. I don't think I haven't seen that. That's my concern. And I think the recommendation to the select board would be, I would think that they should want to know what the return on their dollar is as well, if these monies are invested. Right, Julie?
Agree.
And just if I may follow up, I've spoken with Adam about this issue, and also I've looked at the table of investments, which I think would be very helpful if Mr. Mosier looked at it at some point. But it appears to me to be the town funds are invested in a large number of funds, and it appears to be a moderate rate of return. So I guess the first question in my mind is, are we getting the bang for the buck that's invested? I'm not so sure of that. I know you have a fiduciary duty, but even within the fiduciary duty, I'm wondering as whether the rate of return is proper. And then the other item is just not just the rate of return, but it's the nature of the investments themselves. I personally believe that, maybe at least a portion of the invested funds should be, pedal to the metal type investments. I'm not saying, put 100% of the funds that way, but perhaps, 10% or 15% of the funds should be invested in something that would be a little bit more riskier or a little bit more speculative. And we don't appear to do that. And again, I think Mr. Mosier is the member of our advisory committee who would have the most knowledge about that. But I do think that there should be something, and there's not that I can see in any of the annual reports, there's nothing that describes the annual rate of return. There's nothing with a number. There's a total number of what's invested, but not a number as to what the return is. Mr. Mosier, do you care to comment? No.
They're all going to that.
So for some considerations, Noel, that you and I have discussed before, I will abstain from this conversation at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to add anything?
No, do not.
You all set?
I'm all set.
Concerning the possible motion regarding invested funds interest, has everybody had a chance to read this motion? And is the language of the motion agreeable, or is this something we should move forward with? Anybody care to comment?
I think it's something we can move forward with. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, if we're gonna be, my biggest concern is, I seen the chart and the graphs, just like you did. It just has percentages of dollars that go, it has percentages, you know what I mean? It doesn't have a dollar amount on the return, and nothing's, if I put $1 million in this account, what's my return gonna be? Is it 2%? Is it 6%? Is it whatever it is? Okay, so that's what, $100,000. Okay, if that's the case, then where is that $100,000? Where's the return dollars? That was my only concern. I mean, I know it's being invested. That's not the question at hand. The point at hand is, where is the return dollars? Where does that help us move forward with the investments that we have? I agree with you too, as well as, I mean, I'm not talking doing blue chips, investments. I'm not talking that. I'm not talking, let's go to the Fortune, 500 companies and say, let's start investing huge dollars. I'm not saying that, but I think we could be, I don't know who's handling our investments to begin with. I know it's Fidelity, but I don't know who the person is that's at the computer screen that's handling our investments. But I think we could be managing that a little bit better. That's all. That's my concern. Like, we could be doing some better work.
I happen to feel the same way. I mean, I have a portfolio account, as many retired people like myself do.
Oh yeah.
The first thing I look at in the statement is how many dollars were returned. And it should be no different for the town.
That my exact point. And I'm not trying to, make mountains out of molehills here. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever we're getting back is that them being reinvested. And I'm okay with that too. If they're going to sit there and say, well, you made $100,000 on this investment, so we just took that $100,000 and we re-rolled it into something else. I'm like, okay, well, where's the start point and where's the end point? I mean, I'm not a big financial guy, but I can do my checkbook. Not that anybody does checks anymore, but I mean, I can figure it out. I mean, I just need to know what the end figure is going to be at the end of the year. If it's up or down, okay, I got it. But where's it going? And if it's being reinvested, I get that too. But you should have some type of tracking point to where these investment dollars are going and how much the investments are going to be on the return part of it.
Good. Any other comments? Okay, I would like to move forward the motion that was written up for possible review. The motion regarding invested funds interest. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Move that the advisory committee and the select board and town administrator place within the town annual report or such other report as may determine the total amount of interest paid to the town at least once per each fiscal year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Mr. Mosier,
I will abstain.
Mr. Kaplis,
Yes.
Julie.
Yes.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Now, Kelsey, can you note that there were 4 yeses and then Mr. Mosier abstained?
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item, item 4K on the agenda is discussion regarding upcoming diesel truck emissions standard and the effect on the town. I first became aware of this through an email circulated by Mr. Sosek. I thought it was potentially a significant issue going down the road on the finances of the town. And at this time, I would like to first of all, I appreciate the fact that you stayed here for a long time, Mr. Sosek. Would you care to offer comments on the truck emissions issue that's on the agenda?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Oh boy. So as of the end of December of 24, we will be no longer able to purchase diesel trucks. The only way you could get a diesel truck is to buy a used truck, which I think is going to be very scarce come next year because everybody's in the same predicament. That's why when I first started working with Carter, projecting that I needed 5 trucks. I currently have 2 fairly new Mack trucks, and I got those 2 F750s hopefully going to show up sometime in December. But I'm still short 1 truck. We currently have 3 10-wheelers that I'm constantly sinking thousands of dollars in. I just sunk 25,000 into one to keep it going because I'm not sure if we're going to have those 750s on a timely manner to count on at this point. The money I spent over the last 3 years, I could have bought a truck. It just makes me sick to see the town money going to waste to keep something in service, to give the services. So with that being said, if town decided to go electric, for one, I believe they're going to be very expensive. 2, is the DPW or any other DPW have enough power in that building to start putting the chargers in for that? And that being said, is going to be thousands of dollars. So Templeton,
Mr. Sosek, so there might be thousands of dollars to invest in charging stations.
yep. Because if I don't have enough power at the DPW, they would have to put another transformer in another phase. I'm not sure. We haven't gotten that far into diagnosing of what needs or requires for the charges. Mr. Barry from the light department could probably give me a better idea on what I would be looking at. Because you can use house current and stuff, but that takes hours and hours. And if you could use the electric truck, I don't know what the battery life is going to be, but we plow 2 to 3 days straight if there's a significant storm. So the driver going to come back and sit for 4 hours, wait for a charge. I think it's going to cramp the services in the future. Unfortunately, I hope not to be there when all this comes through, but I'm willing to prepare Templeton and work with them if that's the route we decide to go. MassDOT is kind of working around it. They're actually getting F650s, gas trucks, non-CDL. But again, there's good points and bad points. You'll be able to get help. Bad points are now you have a smaller spreader, more trips back to refill, routes taking longer to treat, smaller plows. And if we do get blizzards or big storms, they're basically just keeping the roads open. There won't be no pushing back with those smaller trucks. Like I said, they have their advantages and disadvantages, but the future coming into electric trucks, I don't have a good vibe on it. I just don't know how long the truck could stay out there without getting a charge. I'm not aware of, I don't think they're going to be like a fire truck. There is talk that fire trucks will be running like a hydraulic generator that can also put a charge back in the batteries if they're on scene for a long period of time, but we're not going to have that on town vehicles like that, I don't believe. So if a truck dies out in the road, so I send the service truck out with a generator and get enough juice to get it back to the yard, or do you have it towed? There's a lot to look forward to and a lot of homework to do to see which and what's gonna happen and what Templeton needs to prepare for.
Mr. Sosek, this is the reason why why I brought this up, and I think it bears repeating. Is it fair to say that you won't be able to purchase a truck prior to the end of this year because it takes so long to spec out a truck?
Right, yeah, if I was to order a diesel truck before the end of December, I'll be okay. After December, I cannot order a diesel truck. I can order a gas truck, but not a diesel truck.
Now, would you be able after December 31st to order a used diesel truck?
No, you won't be able, you can't order a used. You can check with surrounding dealers, see if they have any left over from the end of this year. But like I said, that's going to be a high demand. And if you find one, you consider yourself lucky. So I know like Ballard Mac and Worcester, they're moving out of the state. They don't want nothing to do with it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Sozak, I wasn't familiar with this regulation. This is crazy. So if you place an order for a diesel truck this year before December 31st, is there a deadline at which you need to take delivery of the truck?
As long as you show that you got proof of you ordered it within that time frame.
Okay. So if you ordered something and got delivery of one in March and got delivery of one in 2026 and 2028, and maybe there's a way to work around it, but would it benefit your department in the town to try to supplement your current stock of diesel vehicles?
Yes, if I had that one more truck, Templeton would probably be okay for 8 to 10 years to plan the rest of this out. Am I a fan of gas trucks? Like I explained, you're losing a lot of torque, you're losing a lot of pushing power, diesel versus gas. Yes, it'll be easier to fill a position with non-CDL. So it has its good points and its bad points.
Well, as someone who owns a diesel, I hear where you're coming from. So you're saying it would benefit you and the town and the department that you'd be able to get another 8 to 10 years in another diesel truck?
Right. If I get one more diesel truck, the fleet I will have will put us in good shape for 8 to 10 years.
Do you think that if you described having in anticipation that after January 1st, there will be an increase in the value of used diesel vehicles because towns will still be able to buy them, but not be able to purchase new ones. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Do you think there'd be a value to the town to sell used diesel vehicles that, like you described, you've spent a lot of money repairing? Would the town be able to sell one of those to another town in the future if it decided to?
Yes. What we normally do, Andrew, is we have an auction, and if it's a piece, one of the trucks, I call it a Munro, if we actually have to get parts from overseas. But if it's a working truck, you might the bidding price at an auction would probably be an increase on that.
Would other towns be able to bid on the auctions?
Oh yeah, anybody can bid on them. The company I use, it's a website, municipality, government, private, anybody can look at it and bid on it.
Okay, so I guess I'm just trying to establish that if we, can solve a lot of your foreseen needs in the next 8 to 10 years with another diesel vehicle, and current vehicles that you own that may even be problem vehicles could be more valuable in the future than now. That's something for us to consider as we, debate whether there's a need for an expenditure between now and the end of the year.
Yes or no on it, Andrew. If we run them like we do in Templeton, we call it red line. If we red line it, there's a reason. It's not worth putting that much money into them anymore.
Right, exactly. All right, on the electrical stuff, do you anticipate that we would have a need for using electrical vehicles, or are you just saying that that's an option?
It's what it's coming to. I don't know if it's gonna be more power and torque than a gas vehicle. But right now, a gas vehicles are only option after
And
the other.
they're not really sufficient for all the needs that you identify, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so if we get to that point, one thing that I would want to consider too is looking at the cost and benefits of putting in an electric charging station at the DPW versus, I know we also have those superchargers at the Cumberland Farms in town. I don't know if that's a partnership that the town could explore depending on the cost, whether that makes sense or not. I have no idea, but we do
Well,
have.
there is talk, I don't know, Mr. Berry from the light department, there was talk about putting a few charging stations over at the town hall. I don't know what the status is on that.
Right.
I think it's there's like 3 different grades of charges you can get. And I think this would be the middle one, which it is a little cheaper than Tesla over at Cumbies.
All right,
Yes, what I'm saying, we would want to make sure that your needs are being met first and foremost to charge the vehicles that we need to plow the town and provide services and things like that as well. So,
Yeah, like the best thing, which I was hoping for, was to get that one more diesel truck. And that would give us some breathing room to project the future on which way we're gonna go.
all
all
right,
right.
thank you.
If I believe you had a comment you wish to make.
Yeah, Mr. Solzak, how long have you had, you're on a list for capital improvement, correct?
Every year,
Every year for 6 years.
yes,
And you
ma'am.
have not yet gotten a diesel truck, correct? And
No.
now we're in a
No,
pinch.
we've
We
gotten.
got one, right?
They got one when I first started, which was already ordered. I spec'd another one, I believe the 3rd year, H2, which is a Mack diesel.
Mhm.
And now we got the 2 F-750s coming from ARPA in Chapter 90.
And that's chapter 90, but not capital improvement, correct?
Correct. ARPA in Chapter 90 on the 2 F-750s.
Okay.
So my question would be, if capital improvements, if they were to approve funding for either 1 or 2 diesel vehicles, that would help you out.
Yes, my goal is to have one and keep one of these older ones as a spare.
Mr. Chair, I have a question
Yes.
for Mr. Sozik. Is there any place, any knowledge of even using a diesel or not, I'm sorry, a battery operated like vehicle for this type of purpose? Like is that even, because I know people are gonna say, well, that would be wonderful, but are they used anywhere? Is that even a thing? Like, because
Yes, I believe Mac has sold 3 over the past couple of years. I don't have the specs or any input on how they're working out or.
It's my understanding too that like the batteries on those things are like an egregious amount of money to replace if something happens. It's not like,
Well,
changing
absolutely.
tires or the brakes. It's like you throw the thing away pretty much because the battery is so much money. And how do batteries even, we live in New England, it's cold. What do the batteries look like? I mean, things drain fast. And the future is electric, but is that really?
Well, yeah, the future's electric, and the future after that is the whole world's going to be contaminated with all these batteries.
Right, correct. Correct.
On top of that being said, if I may, and a lot of insurance companies ain't covering the coverage for electric vehicles parked in a garage either. So I don't know if that's gonna have an effect on us or not.
So then we really just need to move on purchasing what we need now before it's too late, because the options for the future are just really poor.
Yeah, unless you know some magic, but the process that we go through capital planning and budgeting and wait until the spring, it'll be too late.
All right, at this time, I think we've discussed this quite thoroughly. At this time, there was a proposed motion I think that a better motion, a better recommendation would be to ask the Capital Improvements Committee to act favorably on any requests that you may make for diesel trucks.
But that has to be voted on at town floor, correct? Yes.
It's a problem.
Mr. Chair, I would consider if we are going to modify the language of the proposed motion, that we make a motion to try to act on this as soon as possible, understanding that there's a immovable deadline as of now, that we see everything we need to do between now, our next meeting, now, the next town meeting, now, and the end of the year, to see what we can do to explore purchasing another diesel truck in order to meet the needs of the town for the next 8 to 10 years.
Well, I think the warrant is still open for the fall town meeting, and this
Correct.
I think should be on the warrant for the fall town meeting. And you might as well ask for 2 trucks.
What's the funding source going to be, Mr. Chair?
I think we should explore everything that we can between now and our next meeting to see if we can identify a funding source, at least for one of the trucks.
Perhaps, perhaps something could be passed at the fall town meeting as a placeholder for the funds.
If I may, Mr. Chair, yes, I mean, if it's something you're gonna do, I know the clock's ticking for the fall town meeting for the warrant, so. Thus being said, it's all possible. Yeah, 2 would be great, but I would settle for 1, would put us in good shape. I'm just trying to make it easy on Templeton for 1. I mean, I can call and get a quote on exactly the same trucks that I'm having built now. And I'm sure it's gone up a little bit as material and steel and everything else. Everything just keeps climbing, so. And
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Sozak, I'd be interested in Mr. Sozak getting that quote and sharing it with us as soon as practical.
I can do that. And it's not, I know it sounds like it's a short notice, but when I emailed Noel, it was only a few days after I got the email that it was passed. So it's a kick in the throat. It's a lot coming up too fast.
And Mr. Chair, through the chair,
Yeah.
this is not quick, though. You've been on a list with the town of Templeton for 6 years, correct?
Yes, Julie.
So they've seen it coming. And you're still not on a warrant. I would say we push to get you on a warrant for the fall town meeting of this year. And I say that you request 2 and give us a price on what you need.
I agree with that. I think we should go for 2 at the fall town meeting.
And you might get 1. Right?
If you don't ask, you don't get.
But he has asked for 6 years. We just got to
Because-
put pressure on it.
Right.
Just knowing Templeton in the past, you might want to word that in the warrant, such as you're asking for 2, but you want to be able to make an amendment or something to end up with at least 1. So you're not,
Right.
void.
I would say, Mr. Chair, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, let's see what the cost would be and try to identify some funding sources, and then we can try to figure out language that we would recommend for the fall town meeting at a future conversation.
Ordinarily, I would say you're absolutely correct, but the problem is the warrant is going to close within 2 weeks. And so we would be better off to get something on the warrant, even if Mr. Sozak doesn't have a price per vehicle.
I can probably get you a price by next Wednesday or Thursday if all goes well and everybody's in the offices.
And we can call a meeting for whenever we need to, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, use Adam to put a place card holder in, so at least it keeps it in the warrant. So before it closes, keep a place card in there for that.
Yeah,
Now
that's-
remember, this ain't just for highway trucks, this is fire trucks too. So there's a lot coming down the pipe. I know, I'm not sure what town they did order their first electric truck. And it's gonna take 3 years to receive that truck. And the fire chief gave his notice when that truck's gonna be delivered. He's gonna retire. He don't wanna deal with it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
so the other members are aware, this is a green community. It was voted in a green community a few years back. So there are multiple grants out there due to the green community stuff. I'm not sure it's going to affect Mr. Sozik or not, but I know it will affect the town. And we've been getting green communities dollars, grant monies every single year. And we've been utilizing those grant monies to even our building codes are the stretch code, which means it's a green building code as well. So I think, not that it's going to help Bob at all, because I'm not sure how these vehicles work either, but I think we can definitely look at other options as far as with the writer that we have in town for the grants. I think we could probably look at other avenues as well for funding sources through the grant writer, through the Greens community. But I agree with you moving forward. I think we should put a place card holder in place for the two vehicles, keeping Mr. Moses' point in place as far as where the funding sources are going to come. And 9 times out of 10, depending on the amount of money, because we're not talking like a couple $100 here or a couple $1,000 here. We're talking like $500,000 per vehicle or close to. Correct me, Bob, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think we were just on the trucks that are, I think it was 220 and some change. So I'm expecting that probably going to be up around 30, 240-ish.
Okay, so you're looking at about $500,000 for 2 vehicles, give or take. But those vehicles do come with warranties, which is the best thing for this community as well, because again, those warranties are huge.
you could also possibly lease the vehicles.
We could do a lease to own. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Again, this is Adam's forte. This is what he does. He looks at the best avenue approach based on the best outcome of the community and based on the funding dollars that we have. So I think the financial officer of the town, we'll give him what we're looking for as far as a request or a recommendation, and then let them figure it out from there.
Mr. Chair, in order to keep the conversation going and the meeting moving, would you entertain a motion at this time?
Yes, I would.
So I would move that the town, including the town administrator and the select board, consider with haste the highway department's need for additional diesel truck or trucks before the end of the year and work on it forthwith.
I'll second that.
Would that include language to place, forthwith, or place something on the fall town meeting warrant?
We can include language that would ask the town administrator to consider placing, at the very least, placeholder language on the fall town warrant in order to purchase an additional diesel truck or trucks for the highway department.
I like that. All right, can you repeat that for Kelsey?
Oh, boy, might be a challenge. Okay. So I would move that we recommend to the select board and the town administrator that we do diligence in order to purchase a truck or a diesel truck or trucks for the highway department, and that the town administrator place placeholder language, if needed, on the fall town warrant in order to purchase a truck or trucks for the highway department, diesel truck or trucks.
You get that, Kelsey?
Mhm.
All right.
Translate it for me, Kelsey.
Yeah,
I'll
you
second that.
read
I
that
wouldn't
back.
do if needed. I would scratch the if needed, because we already know it's needed.
So I got most of what he said the first time. Moser moves that the town administrator select board consider with haste the highway department's need for diesel trucks before the end of the year and work on it forthwith.
Truck or trucks, and additionally, that the town administrator as needed, placeholder language in the fall town warrant to consider the purchase of diesel truck or trucks for highway department.
Got it, thank you.
All right, could you read that back one more time? I know this is a lot to ask of you, so take your time.
It's fine. So Moser moves that TA Select Board consider with haste the highway department's need for diesel trucks before the end of the year and work on it forthwith. TA request that TA place placeholder language on the fall town meeting warrant to consider purchase of 1 or 2 diesel trucks for highway department.
Mr. Moser, does that sound acceptable to you?
Yes,
Mr. Kaplis?
Absolutely, I second that.
All right, and
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes.
okay.
thank you.
Okay, all right, at this time, I will entertain a motion as dictated by Kelsey, she's read it. I think that language is acceptable, so I will entertain a motion.
He made it.
Oh, Mr. Moser made it, I'm sorry.
I
John
second.
seconded.
John
Right?
seconded it? Okay,
So now we're just voting.
okay, I'm
Correct.
gonna call the roll on the vote, that, so it's Mr. Moser's motion and Mr. Kaplis seconded it. You have that, Kelsey? Okay. All right, how do you vote, Mr. Moser,
Yes,
Mr. Kaplis,
Absolutely.
Ms. Richards,
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Bacon?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So the vote is 5-0 in favor of that motion. All right, thank you. That was very good discussion. Very good discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. You're doing a great job.
Right, thank you, board. Appreciate
you for-
your
Thanks,
time.
Bob.
Yeah, thank you for waiting. I greatly appreciate that. Long meeting.
Yeah,
thank you.
good talk. Am I needed for anything else?
No,
Only if
Okay.
you still got the pool table.
Yeah, and you should stay on just to watch anyways. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. It'll be in the next auction
Yeah,
again.
Where's that pool table, Bob?
It's in the cellar of senior center.
It's in his basement.
No, not mine.
okay, thank you. All right, this time we're gonna go on to the last item, item 4I, discussion regarding the light and water department payment in lieu of taxes or pilot. I know, Julie, you probably don't have some of the paperwork that we've had. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes, summarizing, where we're at as far as the pilot. And then also, Mr. Castle, I want to give Mr. Castle an opportunity to speak as well. Very quickly, I looked, there's 41 municipal light plants in the state. And the 10 of them sell roughly between $5 and $10 million of electricity, of which Templeton is one of the towns. So what I did was I compared the payment in lieu of taxes made by the 41 towns, but in particular the 10 towns that are closest to Templeton in terms of the amount of electricity sold. In a nutshell, the conclusion that I came to was out of the 10 towns, 3 or 4 of them, for example, Sterling, the light department pays nothing at all in pilot to the town of Sterling, and there's 3 or 4 other towns like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the town of Hull, which consistently has paid $200,000 a year in pilot to the town of Hull. And then there's a group of 3 or 4 towns that are in the middle, which includes Templeton, and they pay anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 roughly in pilot. So the payment in 2022, which is the last year I looked at, Templeton that year paid approximately $41,000, and Merrimack and Ashburnham, I think Ashburnham paid $69,000, and Merrimack paid roughly $35,000 to $40,000. So Templeton, did fall within that, $35,000 or so. The 10 years ago, the Templeton Light and Water, the Templeton Light Department paid approximately $100,000 in pilot. They were able to do so because they were not carrying a great deal of bonded indebtedness. In 2019, there was a bond taken out for, I think it was $900,000. So out of the 10 towns, similar to Templeton, Templeton by far has the most debt. And the reason why the ability of the light department to pay pilot without the bonded indebtedness, the light department could probably pay, $80,000 to $100,000 very easily in pilot to the town. Now, realistically, what they can pay is in the range of $30,000 to $40,000. I would also point out concerning the issue of payment in lieu of taxes is that the light department has no obligation to pay 1 penny in pilot. It's really up to them as to what amount. I know that Adam has told me that he has what he feels is a good relationship with the light department. And he feels that there could be a pilot worked out. My understanding is that if they were to pay a pilot, they want it to be for a specific item, and that and not just go into the general fund. So that in a nutshell, hopefully that brings you up to speed. And I believe all the other members have had a chance to look at what I've written about the pilot issue earlier this year. So in any event, Adam, I've spoken with Adam several times about pilot, and what I learned recently, and which is the reason why Mr. Castle is here, is that Mr. Castle on his own initiative has spoken with both Adam and the light department. And I think it's no secret that Mr. Castle has a problem in that the number of subscriptions for cable is going down month by month and year by year. And now Mr. Castle is in a real bind. He's in a real bind. He needs money. He needs money to pay for his equipment and to pay for his people. And he has less and less revenue every year. And the town, the town's ability to fund, Mr. Castle is really at the mercy of a town meeting vote. And it really brings a great deal of uncertainty to Mr. Castle. And I feel his pain. It's very difficult for him. So Mr. Castle has spoken, with Mr. Driscoll and also with Mr. Lamontagne, about the possibility of pilot, being structured in some manner for the benefit of TCTV. Mr. Castle asked if it would be helpful if he was to appear tonight, and I felt that it would be, so he could explain in a little bit more detail. I think that I think it's worth hearing out Mr. Castle. I do have possible recommendations on the list. And at this time, if nobody would object, I would like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Castle.
Certainly.
Okay, would you like to come up? Sure.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for waiting.
Good evening, John and Mr. Moser online.
Yeah, thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem. And I appreciate you addressing this. As some of you know, we're in dire funding need for FY26. We can get through FY25. And if we don't get additional funding for FY26, we won't be able to do a lot of the meetings. We won't be able to do a lot of the community information that we provide for people. And a couple of you said tonight that we need to have growth in Templeton. And that's what we're building are the platforms in TCTV and our regional website, Montechusett TV, in addition to a digital signage initiative that we are talking with both the EDIC and we've mentioned it to the light department, that could be really powerful for our businesses. in our town and to attract more businesses and the kind of smart businesses that we want that may have small footprints but big impacts. And we can help this town grow, but if we don't have the funding for it, we're going to disappear. And this town's going to be without an asset, frankly, that all the other towns around here do not have. So we can really help this town grow economically and put it on the map and attract better businesses that we want to have here. But we need the funding. So I'm looking under every rock that I can for funding. And I've, spoken to the light department. I don't want to speak for them because I don't want to do that to people. Too many people already speak for me, but, and thank you, Noel, for summarizing the issue. I thought you did an excellent job with that, but, we need the money any way we can. And I think the town administrator would be happy not to have me bugging him for funding if the light department could help out with that. So we just ask if you are going to request a pilot for them to please consider TCTV.
You're
I,
looking under every rock. Sue. Go.
I'm rocking.
Has everybody had a chance to read the motion concerning the pilot?
Yes, I reviewed it this morning.
I know you have not
I'm
seen
not
it.
reading
You haven't seen it, Mr. Castle. So has everybody had a chance to read it?
I've read it.
I've read it.
Same.
Okay, have you read it?
Yes, I read it.
Okay, so we've all read it. Just so you know, Mr. Castle, is the recommendation is in 4 parts. One is a pilot, I'm just summarizing this, but it's the pilot voluntarily paid by the light department in a range of $35,000 to $50,000 annually, given their present financial posture. And then the second part would be pilot voluntarily paid in the range of $75,000 to $90,000 annually, taking into account reductions in their overall bonded indebtedness. And then third would be pilot in the range of $75,000 to $90,000 annually per a town bylaw passed by town meeting vote. And that would be similar to what the town of Ashburnham did. And that is something that Mr. Bennett suggested a number of months ago. And then the final option is, within the recommendation is that the select board or the town administrator consider, giving priority to funding. I made the mistake again. It should be Templeton Community Television, TCTV, because of their present precarious budget due to declining cable television subscriptions. So that's, in a nutshell, the wording of the recommendation. And of course, it'd be the select board and the town administrator that would have, and the light department would have the final say. I mean, we're, just a recommending body. But do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Can I make one suggestion?
Yes.
We kind of synonymously equate the cable department with TCTV, so you may want to change that to the cable department because that's where we're funded out of, is the cable department. TCTV is a brand of the cable department, like Montechusett.tv and our digital app. So I just wouldn't want to have it restricted just to TCTV.
Lost me in that. Sorry.
That's okay. We tend to equate,
So you're cable, so you get
Yeah.
funded by cable.
right, and TCTV is a product of the cable
Of the
department.
So I put
Just
the,
like Montechusett.tv is and our digital lab now is.
so if the language in the motion read funding the Templeton Cable Department,
The cable TV department, yes. cable's not gonna fund it much anymore.
Okay. I understand where you're.
Yeah. It's semantics, but
Well, no, we want the recommendation. To be
Sure.
as correct as possible. Okay. All right, is there any, are there any, member comments or discussion at this time?
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So if I understand, I know that you've done a lot of work on this, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate it. You've put a lot of research in and a lot of thought, and I think it shows, at least to your fellow members here on the board. You broke down the numbers for the pilot in 2021 and 2022 in a note that you sent me previously. I think it was in 2021, Templeton Light paid 89,000 and change. In a pilot, 2022 was 61,000 and change. And then I think you just mentioned that in 2023, it was about 41,000 and some dollars. Is that accurate?
Gone down, but yes, I believe that's accurate.
Okay. And
So
then in
that's-
2024, has there been a pilot other than the forgiveness of the $8,000 and change light bill?
The only pilot for fiscal year 2024 was the 5,800.
Yeah, whatever it was, because we didn't pay our light bill, right?
That was the pilot for last year. Yes.
Right. So,
For better or for worse, that was the pilot for last year.
well, yeah, I mean, the trend is clear. So one of the, I guess, presuppositions or assumptions in thinking in the range of $35,000 to $50,000, given the present financial posture, including bonded indebtedness. You mentioned a $900,000 bond that was taken out in 2019.
Yes, and the payment it's roughly the principal and interest payments are made yearly, and it's $100,000 to $150,000 a year. So that amount has come down.
Yeah. So I don't know when the payment started, but it seems like if 2 years after that bond, they were still able to pay 89,000, and then it went to 61, and then it went to 41, and then it went to 5,800 or whatever it was. I just don't know if us sort of asking for our top request and our best wishes would be 35 to 50,000, if that's the right number. It seems like they were able to pay more before the years after they got this bonded indebtedness, and I know we want to make sure they can pay it down, but I'm not sure if we're setting our aim high enough.
I'd have to tell you, Mr. Mosier, that unfortunately, when I looked at all the 41 light departments, is the last, there seems to be a time lag of 2 fiscal years between, the end of the fiscal year and the filing. So the last year for which there was information, I believe, was 2022. So we've had fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2024, and now you're into fiscal year 2025. So it is trying to pin down even a range of numbers. It's kind of like trying to hit a moving target. It really
Sure.
is. And it's hard to do. And I have to admit to you that the figures that I came up with are, they're my best guess, and not necessarily as accurate as they should be. But I think it's a range. And also, this is also a possible, motion. I mean, you as a member or any member, you can move that number up or down as part of the recommendation. You certainly can do that. I just thought in crafting these ranges that it was really not only the best guess, but also in keeping with what the light department can really afford to come up with in free cash. I will say there's something else, a former member of advisory, I won't name the person, but the issue has been raised in the past of what I call the Mass Turnpike problem. Okay, and that is the Mass Turnpike, they came up with, bonds in 1956. And they were due to expire in 1986, and at the last minute, they appropriated $400 million in bond, whether they needed it or not. Now, I'm not saying the light department is doing that, but, the bonded, indebtedness makes it, much harder to estimate the free cash. It really does. So these, I think, are the fairest and best figures that I could come up with.
I know you've put a lot of thought and work toward it, and I appreciate that.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I just want to let the viewers know that, and give a shout out to, John Driscoll and the team over there with the Light and Water, that, their pilots, so to speak, have dramatically helped the town, with multitudes of things, from the Scott packs with the fire department for like the last 4 years. Other issues with, a cruiser for the police department 1 year. In their aspect and knowing the Light and Water commissioners, the issue at hand is the fact is not so much giving the town money, and that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is the fact that they don't know where the money goes. They want to make sure that if there is some type of pilot, that they want to make sure there's some type of agreement in place that's going to assist the town, where it's not just going to go with the general fund. It's going to go directly towards resource or resource. I'm not saying that TCTV is not a good source. I had a conversation with Steve the other day, and he knows my feeling of the forward motion of TCTV. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to look at with that pilot, even though it's small numbers. We're only talking between $50,000 to $90,000. But I mean, I say small when you're looking at a $22 million budget. That those dollars need to go, they need to assist the town in ways that we all need to agree to. And I think, utilization of TCTV, which is a great resource. Don't get me wrong. I think I sat down with Steve when I first got elected back in the day, that I helped him with his first cable contract. And we did a great job, binding together, collaborate together. I think to move forward, I'm really not a big sell on the utilization of the any type of pilot from them. And I know Steve already met with John Driscoll. I know there was already conversation with that. I know there was conversation with Adam. I know his budget shoot up by 100 and something thousands of dollars, and I get that. I understand that. My personal opinion, I think this is a Band-Aid. If we do draft something up for Steve and it goes to Driscoll as a potential pilot, no matter what figure it is, if it's 50 or if it's 90, it doesn't matter. So let's just say 90. It's a Band-Aid for Steve. It's a Band-Aid. And how long is that Band-Aid going to last? I don't know, because he knows as well as I do, the cable subscriptions are going down dramatically. I mean, I was with him the other day. I think I asked everybody in the room who had cable, and I think nobody did. Even I don't. I take that back. I do have cable, but it's for my internet. But nobody has cable anymore. So it's other resources that he needs to look at. I think collectively and collaboratively, I think we all need to look at, I want to keep TCTV alive. How do we do that? How do we work, potentially a 501c3 organization for Steve? How does that work? What helps him make more money based on, revenues of, the YouTube channel, internet services, almost like a yellow book in the internet type of deal. There's other avenues to approach. I think if we focused on specifically the pilot, specifically for TCTV, he's looking at 1, maybe 2 years without asking the town for a dime. And that's even maybe because, again, his subscriptions are going down so low. I don't know what the big fix is. Having a $90,000 pilot that's given by the Light and Water Department to TCTV is not the fix. I mean, if you want to go that route, I'll support it, but it's not going to work. It's going to last a year, maybe. And then what's going to happen? And then he's still going to be taking the pilot, and then he's going to be going back to the town for more dollars. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve.
It could happen, John. My understanding is that the light department, and again, I don't want to speak for them, but I know it's been talked about that they want something that they can do year after year for about 4 or 5 years. And that's what we need is 5 years of funding.
Yeah, and you know what? And I agree with that. I have a,
Can we ask them to do that? Why not? You know, I've got to look for money anywhere I can get
Oh,
it.
I totally agree, but I also know that there's an ambulance coming down the pike that we're gonna probably hopefully lease to own, and that's gonna be at least a, potentially a $90,000 buy-in, and that would be a great power program as well. That's all I'm saying. I'm like, we need to look at every avenue before we just, jump on the bandwagon here. I think, and same with TCTV, which is a great organization. I'm not saying that it's not. I just think that we need to look at other avenues here too as well. Just, I think the pilots, I think it's a Band-Aid fix. I mean, and it might last a year.
If I may, I feel that it is a Band-Aid, but I think there may be other sources from Mr. Castle in terms of fees from streaming companies. Perhaps Disney or Netflix or YouTube. That might, the state legislature has considered that legislation for the past 2 years and have not passed anything. But I think something will pass eventually, and maybe it'll pass within the next 2 years, and then you'll be fully funded.
So sometimes a Band-Aid could be enough to get us through the next year. I mean, John, and I know what you're saying. I don't want to come back every year and beg for money. I don't enjoy it, and I don't think other people enjoy it either. But we have to look for any revenues that TCTV can get in FY26 just to survive right now. So, whether the state can do anything in the next year, that would be nice. I think they have an agreement on a commission, but the streaming companies are going to be on it, so you can kiss the 5% goodbye.
And
And
is there any hope of, through our grant writer, obtaining any money through grants?
we're talking with about the digital equity grants, and that's something that TCTV could work with, and we could provide that kind of service to people if they need access points or digital literacy training and stuff like that. We were talking about that today in a meeting, but you have to consider, I think we're pre-approved if our application gets approved as a town, not just TCTV, for 56,000 or something. We can get to 100. But again, that's for the town, not necessarily for TCTV. And even if that money went to TCTV and we were able to hire a person, this is like a contract, right? We have to provide those deliverables. So it's not just like, we're going to get that money and be able to fund our operation, because now we have to work for them like they're a client for that money. Do you know what I mean? So
How about the school system? Have you dipped into that source? Like some of these local regional schools in our area, they're budgeting in for their broadcasting of like football games, cheering events, that kind of thing. So they're getting their budget from the school budget.
I
Your
don't know
opportunity
about
there
them.
is lost,
I
or
know Oakmont does that, but
right?
the school killed its media program that we were working with when Dr. Cassavant took over, and there's been nothing since then. So
So you can't revisit that.
you can revisit it, but I
You
don't,
haven't revisited that though.
they killed their program, Julie.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just trying to understand.
we're still trying to establish a digital lab regionally because the schools aren't teaching media. And that's the scariest thing for me as a journalist. Who's going to do it next?
Well,
Right?
the schools in our area,
Yeah.
in our town, I know,
Yeah.
but other schools
Yeah.
are, yeah.
I mean, I just don't think that there's anything there. I mean, we can ask about it, but
Yeah,
they don't want to do it.
At this time, I think I'd like to ask if there is a consensus. You've all seen the possible motion. Could I get a consensus from the members as to whether this is a recommendation that is viable, or if we should go in another direction?
I think it's not viable. That's my opinion.
Mr. Chair, we're looking at a huge deficit in 25. I mean, to the point where we're looking at, potential, I'm not gonna use the word, over 2.5%, you know what I mean, over what we have to talk about, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say any bad words here on TV. But I mean, if you're looking at something like, a $2 million potential, override, which I'll say the bad word. How are the people going to adjust to the fact that we're going to take a pilot and then provide it to TCTV? I'm not sure how that's going to fly. No matter how well you sell the fact that we are short police, fire, and highway folks to do the service that they need to do for our people here in town, but yet we're worried about a $90,000 pilot, which again, it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, but is it feasible at this point? Knowing the fact that it might be a Band-Aid for Steve. I don't know. I mean, I wish there was, because I think last year he went to, what was it, 125,000 you asked for the budget for this year, past year?
Yes, and your committee requested that for us.
And again, I mean, it was a supported event, and I get that, and it didn't go anywhere, did it not?
No, the town administrator did not include it in his budget.
That's right, because again, we have to look at not that TCTV is not important. I want to stress that enough. I'm not saying that it's not enough, or it's not a product or a program that needs to be funded. I'm not saying that. But again, if I'm an elderly person and I have to buy prescriptions or I have to pay my rent, I'm going to pay my rent and my prescription is not going to be paid. And in fact, the town's in the same situation. Like, there's so many needs across the town that we, as the advisor, have to sit back and be like, okay, let's look at this. Let's take a peek and see how this actually works out. We have a highway department who we just heard who needs at least $500,000 for 2 diesel vehicles. So
My question is, when are we going to address TCTV? Because
that's a great question,
John, everything, it becomes, well, these are all other priorities,
Right.
and we get thrown to the bottom of the list.
You're absolutely right.
So that's why we're here. And ultimately, is it not the light department's decision? You can say no to me here and I can go there tomorrow and talk to them about it. So
You're right. I mean,
I don't know what recommendation that you want, but I think the town administrator would call the light department tomorrow if you gave them the word.
okay.
Well,
No.
the language does say consider giving priority to funding the Templeton Cable TV department. So I mean,
That's all we're asking for.
they could either take or reject that
consideration.
recommendation.
I mean, personally, I would like the department to pay for a new cruiser every single year, or put the loan on the fire truck or the ambulance that we have to purchase. I mean, what weighs more, and what weighs less? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make a bad choice. I mean, we're collectively here together, collaborating together to find out what's the best course of action here for TCTV to stay alive. And I don't have the answer.
You wish to, you have anything to
I've got no.
you have anything?
I have
further?
nothing further.
All right, does anybody have anything further to offer?
I do. I would love to see sustained funding for TCTV, but there's 800,000 plus in free cash. You could fund TCTV for 5 years with that for what we need. But I understand there are other needs, and that's all going to be eaten up probably, right? We need the funding in any way that we can right now. I have a feeling I'm going to have to cobble it together from different sources like this, 20 here, 30 there, whatever it takes. But that's where I'm at. I'm at whatever it takes.
I ask for your consideration.
That's all.
All right, does anybody wish to make a motion at this time? I think we have discussed this at more than adequate length. Does anybody wish to make a motion? All right, hearing none, then it appears that we will not make any motion at all. So this time I will table the request. Okay, moving on.
Thank you all for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, at this time, do any members wish to offer comments? I know it's been a long meeting and I thank you all for your patience. Mr. Moser?
Sure, just a quick comment. Mr. Chair, I'm glad that you're here chairing our committee this year. I'm looking forward to serving on it with you and our fellow members. Julie, welcome.
Thank
Nice to
you.
have you on the board with us. I feel like we fit about 3 meetings into 1 meeting tonight based on the time, but it was a great conversation. And I'm particularly interested in making sure that we can properly plan for the needs of the highway department based on our conversation tonight, to be able to take care of the needs of the department for the next 8 to 10 years, and having a short window to do so, I think should be a major point of focus for us here in our next few weeks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moser. Mr. Kaplan? You have anything you wish to add?
Great communication. I think it was it was overall it was I think it was great. And Julie, thanks for coming on board. I appreciate it. And you know, it's
Hope I can help.
well, your experience is well needed. You know, 9 years on the select board. You kidding me?
6 years trying to get trucks to the highway.
No, I was with you. Don't stop. But welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Do you wish to offer any comments?
I don't, just thank you for having me and thank you for suggesting it. Hope I can contribute.
Thank you. Do you wish to have any comments?
Just would like to thank Julie for joining and being another voice here on this board, because we clearly need it.
Okay, I have nothing to add.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
AC in that
Yeah,
library.
who else?
All right.
The last thing I do.
All right, thank you all. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, moved by Mr.
Don't
Kaplan.
trip over yourselves.
Seconded by Julie.
Oh, he gave it to you, John.
We get hated.
Can I have a roll call vote? Mr. Moser?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.